Dante's Inferno, Canto 16. Guerra, Arabrande, and Restacucci, cataract of the river of blood. Now was I where was heard the reverberation of water falling into the next round, like to that humming which the beehives make, when shadows three together started forth, running from out a company that passed beneath the rain of the sharp martyrdom. Towards us came they, and each one cried out, "Stop thou, for by thy garb to us thou seemest to be someone of our depraved city." Ah me, what wounds I saw upon their limbs, recent and ancient by the flames burnt in. It pains me still but to remember it. Unto their cries my teacher paused attentive. He turned his face towards me, and, "Now wait," he said, "to these we should be courteous. And if it were not for the fire that darts the nature of this region, I should say that haste were more becoming thee than them." As soon as we stood still, they recommenced the old refrain, and when they overtook us, formed of themselves a wheel, all three of them, as champions stripped and oiled are wont to do, watching for their advantage in their hold, before they come to blows and thrust between them. Thus, wheeling round, did every one his visage direct me, so that in opposite wise his neck and feet continual journey made. And if the misery of this soft place bring in to stain ourselves in our entreaties, began one, and our aspect black and blistered, let the renown of us thy mind incline to tell us who thou art, who thus securely thy living feet dost move along through hell. He in whose footprints thou dost see me treading, naked and skinless though he now may go, was of a greater rank than thou dost think. He was the grandson of the good Guadrada. His name was Guerra, and in life much did he with his wisdom and his sword. The other, who close by me treads the sand, to Gallo Aldobrande is, whose fame above there in the world should welcome be. And I, who with them on the cross in place Jacopo Rescucci was, and truly my savage wife more than aught else doth harm me. Could I have been protected from the fire below, I should have thrown myself among them, and think the teacher would have suffered it. But as I should have burned and baked myself, my terror overmastered my good will, which made me greedy of embracing them. Then I began. Sorrow and not disdain did your condition fix within me so, that tardily it wholly is stripped off. As soon as this my lord said unto me words, on account of which I thought within me that people such as you were reproaching. I of your city am, and evermore your labors and your honorable names I with affection have retraced and heard. I leave the gall and go for the sweet fruits promised to me by the voracious leader, but to the center first I need must plunge. So may the soul for a long while conduct those limbs of thine, did he make answer then. And so may thy renown shine after thee. Valor and courtesy say if they dwell within our city, as they used to do, or if they wholly gave on out of it. For Guillermo Borsier, who is in torment with us of late, and goes there with his comrades, doth greatly mortify us with his words. The new inhabitants and the sudden gains, pride and extravagance have in thee engendered, Florence, so that thou weepest thereat already. In this wise I exclaimed with face uplifted, and the three, taking that for my reply, looked at each other as one looks at truth. If other times so little it doth cost thee, replied they all, to satisfy another, happy art thou thus speaking at thy will. Therefore, if thou escape from these dark places and come to re-behold the beauteous stars, when it shall pleasure thee to say, I was, see that thou speak of us unto the people. Then they broke up the wheel, and in their flight it seemed as if their agile legs were wings. Not an amen could possibly be said so rapidly as they had disappeared, wherefore the master deemed best to depart. I followed him, and little had we gone, before the sound of water was so near us, that speaking we should hardly have been heard. Even as that stream which holdeth its own course, the first from Mont Veso towards the east, upon the left-hand slope of Apennine, which is above called Aquacheta, ere it down descendeth into its low bed, and at Forli it's vacant of that name, reverberates there above San Benedetto from Alps, by falling at a single leap, where for 1,000 there were room enough. Thus downward from a bank precipitate, we found resounding the dark-tinted water, so that it soon the air would have offended. I had a cord around me girt, and therewithal I whilom had designed to take the panther with the painted skin. After I this had all from me unloosed, as my conductor had commanded me, I reached it to him, gathered up and coiled, whereat he turned himself to the right side, and at a little distance from the verge he cast it down into that deep abyss. It must needs be some novelty respond, I said within myself, to the new signal the master with his eye is following so. Ah me, how very cautious men should be with those who not alone behold the act, but with their wisdom look into the thoughts. He said to me, Soon there will upward come what I await, and what thy thought is dreaming must soon reveal itself unto thy sight. Aye, to that truth which has the face of falsehood, a man should close his lips as far as may be, because without his fault it causes shame. But here I cannot. And, reader, by the notes of this my comedy to thee I swear, so they may not be void of lasting favor, athwart that dense and darksome atmosphere, I saw a figure swimming upward come, marvelous unto every steadfast heart, even as he returns who goeth down, sometimes to clear an anchor, which is grappled reef, or aught else that in the sea is hidden, who upward stretches, and draws in his feet. A few notes about this canto. The most striking thing are the three figures. These three figures, if you don't know, are three Florentines alongside Dante. And they're in hell because of their greed. Remember, we're in the area of sodomy, but we don't understand exactly why. But with these three figures, but they're conceited. They blame all of the problems that were going on in their time in Florence and in Dante's on the new people, the new money that came in. And they refuse to see it. They see themselves as the old money. They see themselves as right, as vindicated, and they don't yet see how that somehow equated to hell. They're in hell. Clearly, the fruits speak for themselves. To add to this, what's the first thing they notice about Dante but his clothes? They are focused on the material. Also, they walk around, they spin around in a circle around Dante without their heads ever moving, always fixed on Dante. Very symbolic of their conniving, clever, plotting nature. Just like political figures, they always know how to keep their eyes fixed and know how to maneuver things even unnaturally, their heads moving unnaturally from their bodies. It shows their serpentine nature, and again why they're in hell. The most important part about this canto comes at the end, when Dante hands off his girdle. He hands it off to Virgil. And you could say that's in response to the damned Florentines. What are they focusing on but materialism and wealth? And what better way for, and representative of clothing, represented by clothing specifically. So what better way for Dante to renounce that than to cast off the very clothing they looked at? He doesn't know why this is going to do anything. He doesn't know why it makes sense. But something inside of him tells him that if this is what has caused damnation, then just a tossing of it without knowing what it's going to do, just that free offering without having to understand what comes next. So Dante begins more so to understand faith.